This is the third webinar in our series. The first two covered digital psychology and getting your organisation digitally ready. And there are actually parts in this presentation today that relate back to the other two webinars. So we'll send you links to those as a bit of a refresher. For those that don't know Reading Room, we're an international digital agency with offices throughout Australia, Asia and the UK. At the core of what we do for many of our clients, it's helping them to deliver their digital experience, which includes strategy, design, build, and support of customer and internal-facing digital experience platforms. So if you haven't worked with us before, you'll find us pretty down to earth and passionate about creating digital experiences for and with our clients. Our clients are pretty broad and varied, from commercial to government, from startup to market leaders. And each client has really quite different needs, is operating different markets and has different aspirations. And we're there to really sort of partner them through as their digital consultancy. A quick little bit about me. For the last 10 years, I've been providing strategy to clients, as well as writing and presenting on digital and offline experiences. I've worked client side for about 10 years in the financial and engineering professional services space, and on the consulting side for about 10 years for a pretty broad range of B2C and B2B clients. If you want to read more about my thoughts on things digital and experience, feel free to visit the Reading Room blog or dig back into my archives on my blog at neilshewan.com. Today is about creating exceptional experiences in a multi-device world. And we did things a little bit differently for this webinar, and we actually asked attendees what challenges they were facing in this space. And well, we came back with a lot of really great answers of challenges that people were facing, really varied, and it played actually a large part in formulating the content for the presentation today. I basically laid out all the challenges on a table, and they fell around 4 key themes that I'll be touching on during the presentation. So a bit of an outline. So I'll talk through some of those challenges that people are having. I'll talk about the utopia state that we'd all love to be able to reach around delivering really great experiences to clients. And then I'll talk through a few concepts that might actually help you navigate your way into delivering and sort of getting a bit closer to that utopia. So as I mentioned, there are 4 themes around challenges that people are facing. It's really obvious that this collision of these themes happening within organisations is making the strategy and delivery of really great experiences an increasing challenge. So I might just talk you through those 4 sort of themes, those 4 challenges that are impacting us all. At the top left, we have the multi-device world as we know it and as we live in now. And as one of my clients summed up a few days ago, I didn't realise how easy it was just to have to worry about my website in the early 2000s. Now I've got desktops, Chromebooks, tablets, mobile phones, Internet of Things, and now watches. It's a lot to handle. Bottom right, we have the push by organisations to focus more on exceptional experiences, really giving clients a great experience and translating through to their bottom line. Top right, we have what I've called change, and this is a pretty broad category, and this is that unrelenting pace of change that we're really facing around technology, user experience, and new business models. As one attendee put it in the challenges, this technology is moving faster than we can actually implement, and it's a real challenge. And finally, bottom left, we have the organisation, the way that it procures, the way that it manages projects, and that in many cases can actually be holding people back and organisations back. So these 4 colliding themes make for really interesting times to work in, and so I thought I'd just unpack those a little. So the first is the multi-diverse world. So I think you just have to hop on a train, on public transport, and you start to see how people, really quite publicly are using their devices. Look down a train carriage, and people, everybody is using a device of some kind. They might be booking dinner for that night, or watching a YouTube video on how to renovate their bedroom. Might be sharing news, or they might be working on a spreadsheet. So a really diverse range of devices in different situations. And what we know is that the device we use is actually driven by context. It's based on where we are, what our state of mind is at that time, and what we want to accomplish, and how much time we actually have to do it. And the way that we digest information actually changes from a quick, perhaps, glance to a smartwatch for a notification, to 1 minute spent sort of searching for directions on a mobile, and then through to reading a long form piece on a tablet, or doing some sort of more detailed research on a laptop. So research from Google tells us that we use these multiple devices to accomplish a task. In fact, 90% of people move from device to device as they're moving through their day. And people are using different devices to start different types of tasks. For example, Google found that about 65% of searches were started on a smartphone, then continued onto another form of device. As you can see here, perhaps onto a PC or onto a tablet. So you may, for example, be out with some friends and you hear about a new restaurant. You might do a quick search on your smartphone. You then might email yourself a link. And then when you're home, you might then jump onto your laptop to actually book the reservation. The second theme is around change, and how, as organisations, marketers and sort of IT teams, how we're responsive and innovative in the face of this change, in the face of opportunities and also threats that we see on the horizon. And these changes can include what your competitors are actually doing in the face of that change. They might be changing their business model, or a new nimble player may be starting to come in and compete with you and use a technological solution to perhaps an existing challenge that's out there. The other thing is consumers are really expecting more, and their rate of expectation is increasing substantially. This chap, Dr. Kano Noriaki, actually laid down some of the foundations for modelling customer satisfaction expectations in the early 1980s, and much of that still plays out today. He looked at an organisation's investment in customer satisfaction against the satisfaction actually experienced by customers, and placed it on a very simple graph. He found that innovation that starts by delivering extreme delight, as shown with that sort of magenta line, will move to being a basic expectation over time. So free Wi-Fi in your hotel is probably a good example of that. It started off as an excitement generator, and over the years it's moved to being more of a basic expectation. And then to the point where if it's not available, then it almost becomes a significant detractor to doing business with that organisation. I think you just need to take a quick look at our expectations around mobile phones since 1982, and it very much shows us how innovation is required to keep up and hopefully ahead of that sort of rapid change that's happening. The next factor of change is around digital technology change, and there's a whole range of changes that are obviously happening in that space. Around content, there's a massive increase in the use of content-driven marketing, from white papers to infographics to blogs and status updates that we're all dealing with, working out how we're going to use them and get them to sort of cut through. There's also change in the way that we package up information. There's many social networks, for example, that now read in pre-formatted information from your website to make your content more shareable and interactive using what they're calling cards. So Facebook and Google and Twitter and Instagram are now accepting shared links from your website in this way, and many sites that aren't set up to benefit from that aren't seeing flow through into strong social results. There's also changes in Google, the way they are ranking websites depending on whether your site is mobile friendly. So if your site does not comply as mobile friendly, and as you can see, the Reading Room site is there, and it puts a little sort of grey mobile friendly sitting in front of the name, you'll be a lot more difficult to find if you aren't seen as being mobile friendly. So given the high amount of mobile browsing on websites, if they can't find your site and perhaps your site isn't mobile responsive, a lot of people won't be experiencing your site. So if you're unsure how your site actually stacks up, I strongly suggest you use Google's mobile friendly test tool and see how your site is currently performing in Google's eyes. There's also a change in the way that we're using mobile apps. If your customer experience would benefit from users seeing content based on where they are, perhaps tapping into the use of iBeacons or other micro-location technology can help to ensure content is timely and more relevant. And there's also a new screen that's begging for our attention. I suppose as a device, it's ready for us to look for new ways on how to use a watch. It's quite an intimate device. It's on your wrist. We're all exploring quite how can it be used, what are the most appropriate ways for it to be used. And finally, if that's not enough, the Internet of Things is on the rise, with more people having internet-connected devices such as lights and thermostats and speakers. So the third theme of challenges is around experiences, and that is that desire of organisations to craft an experience in the digital and the physical world that takes all these devices and makes it truly valuable. So there's a lot of textbook definitions of customer experience, but this is probably my favourite. This is from Michael Eisner, who's the past CEO of Disney. A brand or customer experience is a living entity and is enriched or undermined cumulatively over time, the product of 1,000 small gestures. And if you think about it, that's how it works. You might have a really good experience, but one small, really bad experience can actually undermine that experience moving forward. Experiences are about people. I think it's critical that we keep on reminding ourselves of that. It's about how as people we have an emotional response. Experiences are shared. I mean, we love sharing our experiences, using social media to share the good and the bad, and it's something that we're all increasingly aware of. A good experience can be about great design. It can be about just injecting a little bit of humour into what we do. And it can be about being quirky, I suppose just being human. So I think the important thing is, and at Reading Room, I think we're really aware of this, is that we just don't get pulled into the way that we actually deliver an experience. It's really easy to get talking about devices and screen sizes and content and channels before standing back and realising we're designing experiences for people. And the best experiences have been really designed in that way. So when creating a digital experience, it's important to be mindful that it's just part of the person's overall experience that they have with your company. And I suppose we're very mindful of that. Digital is just one of the ways that they will interact with you. The fourth and last theme is just around organisations, and I've called it organisational anchors. These anchors are things that perhaps might actually restrict your ability to respond to change and to actually really deliver a great experience, and to hold us back from getting that competitive advantage. So the first anchor is around organisations that are highly segmented internally. In many cases, they may be selling to people who could benefit from many services or products that the company sells. However, perhaps it's a little bit too hard to navigate. that maybe there's no shared taxonomy of how the organisation classifies things to enable people to be able to search through it and surface the content and products the most relevant to them. So breaking down some of these organisational barriers can actually really assist in making the organisation more customer focused. The second anchor holding organisations back can be the senior management buy-in to really focus on customer experience and working collaboratively just to cut through some of those constraints that can really start to impact on the experience. The third anchor can just be the way that you procure and work on projects. When you're in an environment of rapid change, as many organisations are, your systems actually need you to allow you to rapidly get new products, services, and content to market. This diagram shows the traditional, more waterfall approach to procurement and project management, where we just start with a big chunk of research. We create a wheelbarrow full of documentation. And then at the end of a protracted period, we end up with a final product that we put out to market. Now, when things change so quickly, that final product that goes out just might not be appropriate. So the adaptive or more agile approach is doing quicker rounds of research, design and building, and then launching, testing and refining in really short sprints. And this allows you to see what's happening, get feedback, and allows you to actually pivot the strategy when change occurs. And as you're moving through the process, you can actually reprioritize some of the components of what you're delivering to get it to market quicker and to deliver a better experience. The last anchor can be just how ready is your organisation to actually embrace and execute improvements in customer experience. This is a diagram from a company called Sitecore, and it shows the steps as they see it for moving from being ready as an organisation just to attract clients through to converting and then keeping them. Often major improvements to customer experience can't happen quickly. It really is important to have a roadmap for how to execute it. And as much as the organisation may desire to get there quickly, there may be things holding that back. So this roadmap that you create, it might be a rollout over 6 months or it might be over a couple of years, but it's a matter of prioritising what parts of the customer experience you want to focus on first and getting the organisation actually ready to accept it. So we've looked at some of the challenges, and a lot of these challenges have been highlighted in some of the questions that were sent through, or the challenges that were sent through by participants in the webinar today. So we've looked at those challenges, and now I suppose it's time to look at, well, what does utopia look like? Let's remove some of those anchors that perhaps might be holding us back and look at what utopia looks like. So in 1516, this is what they thought utopia was. And interestingly, there's not a smart phone in sight. And it also seemed to involve dancing around a tree without any clothes on, which is a little weird. Today, what does that mean? What is utopia? So utopia looks a little bit different. There's 5 things that we've found many of our clients are searching for. So the first is for them to have happy clients when they're doing things that align with the organisation's objectives. And that alignment is important, and the fact that they are happy in their experience. Secondly, that the things that are focused on are the things that make the customers most happy first, and we focus on those things first, remove their pain points, and then move on to other things that might be nice to have. That they can respond quickly to opportunities and threats as new technology comes up, that they can pivot strategy when things don't work out, or when something new is learnt, and I suppose most importantly, just de-risk the impact of this rapid change that we're going through. So I'm now going to take you through 4 concepts that might help you on that pathway to utopia. So the first is just to set some clear business objectives. Second is to design for people, not for devices. Thirdly is that we create that adaptive, agile environment, and then we start to build the platform, channels, and devices that we're going to use. So let me take you through those 4 concepts. The first, clear business objectives. So having clear objectives for the business is absolutely critical, and it's used to shape the sections of the customer experience that we will focus more time on. We don't need to satisfy every customer need. We really need to focus on the ones that are going to support the company objectives. It's really easy to skip this concept or just to pay it lip service. However, it really is the most important stage. And as you're creating those objectives, to create some really strong KPIs that we can keep on coming back to and measuring how improvements occur over time, so we can feed that back into the decision loop and make decisions on future improvements. Having strong leadership in this space is really critical. Some organisations have put in place a head of customer experience, and that person will actually help break down some of the silos that can often occur between products or services or parts of organisations, can bring in partners and really make sure that the entire user journey is considered. The second concept is around focusing on designing for people and not devices. And we really touched on it earlier, but when designing your customer experience, the focus needs to be on people first. And this comes from human design thinking. It's about looking at the experience somebody has with your organisation from start to end. It's about thinking about the usability of the product, the sort of pleasure and utility they're going to get from that, and that's what makes it desirable. It starts with identifying your primary and secondary audiences and creating a persona for each audience based on what drives that audience. It's looking at their pain points, what are their hurdles and their triggers. And our digital psychologist, Debbie Coe, did a great webinar a couple of months ago on this very topic and suggest you look at that. It will provide you with some insights into how to create psychographic personas and how to use them. So once we have a good set of personas in place, for each persona we can then start to identify this emotional journey that they're going through with your experience. When do they feel happy? Where are their pain points? This is an example of going through the process of planning to go to a hotel, booking, arriving, checking in, exploring, and checking out. And obviously the areas where there are pain points around bookings, checking out, checking in, that are all areas that as a business, that business can look at to try and alleviate. This is where we really start to pull out the post-it notes and really start working together to map out the experience with each persona that the organisation has, and it results in a really quite a detailed map of each stage. And it's really only at this stage that we start to look at what interactions do they have through that journey, what devices do they use, what channels do people interact with, and the experience that we want them to have. It's really only at this stage that we are looking at the product, services, channels, content that we are delivering. Each experience map can then be broken down into user stories, and each persona might have many user stories. And so each user story is a single interaction for a specific persona. And once we have those, it gives us a really great way to start to prioritize what is most important. We can create this list of user stories, or what's sometimes called a product backlog of things that we're going to do and launch and deliver. And we can start ranking them based upon the value to the user and to the organisation. And we can also look at other dependencies that might be within the organisation. And this provides you with a really detailed list of deliverables for each lot of sprint of work that you do with your team or your digital partner. Concept 3, to help you move to utopia, is really embracing that concept of adaptability, of working in an agile way. And using that methodology internally will actually allow the business to work in those sprints that I just discussed in the last section. It enables the organisation to be more agile, more nimble, and we are iterating as we move through the process. So this is the diagram I showed before, and I suppose it's taking some of that waterfall thinking out of the organisation and bringing in a more agile, adaptive way of working. It's about working in these short sprints of about 15 to 90 days, depending on the organisation and how it's set up. And each sprint has really clear deliverables to launch at the end of the sprint. So that might be that work might include work on the website, on some social or content teams, and they all have a set of user stories that they're working to take a product to market. During the web sprint, for example, the team might also look at some other related tasks in that sprint that make sense to carry out at that time, and they can be then prioritised into that sprint. And then before we then start on the next sprint, we can look at the list of backlog user stories, and we can review them, reprioritise them, and then determine what's going to be done and deliver the best value for the next sprint. So working in this way de-risks the delivery of the customer experience, and it ensures that high priority user stories are always put at the top of the list. The last concept, concept 4, this is our final concept, is to really only start looking at those channels and devices once there is a really clear idea of the experience map. Experiences can really be quite complex, and I think some of the challenges that were highlighted by participants is that actually delivering those experiences and managing all of those channels can be really quite challenging. So it's a matter of starting to look at a platform that will start to pull that together. So these are some of the elements that might typically be involved in the customer experience. There's many more that depending on the organisation. And integrating all of these parts together so they work seamlessly is key. So over the last 5 years, we've seen this rise of marketing automation systems to guide users through that experience and also provide that sort of back-end management and reporting to the organisation on the experience. And these platforms allow you to track customers through the journey from awareness through to becoming advocates. And there are a number of vendors out there now that are providing this experience management platform, organisations like Sitecore and Adobe and Kentico, and that they incorporate many of the marketing automation functions into one integrated platform. So they are the 4 concepts that will hopefully help you move towards experience utopia. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I want to thank you for your time today. I hope you've found it useful in actually sharing some of the other challenges that other organisations are having out there in terms of creating those experiences in this multi-device world, and that some of those 4 concepts I just chatted about will actually help you and your firm deliver that exceptional experience that you're looking for. If there are any questions or thoughts, my contact details are here. Please drop me a line or please call any of the Reading Room teams in an office near you. Thank you again for your time today, and I hope you found it useful.